Hey guys, how's it going today? So I'm going to do a little bit of an extension on the video that I did yesterday, which was on what is fundamental analysis. So video is going to be on what is technical analysis. Okay, so simply put, technical analysis is just basically looking at the technicals or the chart. You see we have a chart here on Yahoo Finance. So this diverges rather from fundamentals in that fundamentals are looking at the fundamentals of the company. Like I said, if you don't understand this, please watch my other video. We're looking at the balance sheet, the microeconomic factors, the macroeconomic factors. But this technicals, we're really not even concerned with that whatsoever. And people that are engaging in this type of trading are usually day traders. So day traders are basically somebody who's within a day, sometimes a little bit more, looking for these types of price movements. So this was the last trading day. We saw it go down $1, and this is what happened during the day. So a technical analysis or a day trader would be looking for certain things here, like looking if they were perfect at what they were doing, they'd be buying down here, selling up here, shorting up here, and buying back down here, and making money throughout the day. And that is different from somebody who's looking at fundamentals or a long-term investor like myself or Warren Buffett or someone like that, who's not so concerned about what's happening. They're looking at longer, like let's look at 1 year, what happened to Lockheed here in 1 year. So without going into too much detail, let's go to the chart here, and I can just show you a quick couple different technicals. So there's indicators. So just like fundamental analysis where there's, the PE ratio, enterprise value, things like this, there's indicators. They're not just looking at the chart here. There's indicators on this stock, when to buy, when to sell. Whether or not these are valid and they work that much anymore, well, I'll talk a little bit about that in a bit. But let's look at some just very common ones. So probably the most common one is moving averages, and you can put a period in here being how many days. You click it and you see this purple line show up here. So what this is it's simply the closing price for a certain number of days divided by the days, and then you get this line, right? So kind of the general rule of thumb with this is if your stock price is above it, that's a good thing. It's not always indicative, right? Like we see this long run here and it's above, and the long-term trend is up. Here it dipped below a bit, so I'm no expert in technicals, but you might be a little worried. But there's one other, let me show you this. There's different ways that people combine them. So there's the 50-day moving averages you see right here, and this is a 200. Now, if you see these two cross, that's called the death cross, and then quite often stocks will fall after that. So that's basically the gist of a simple moving average. Do I look at it? Every once in a while I might look at it, see what the long-term trend is, but I'm more looking at fundamentals. So let's delete those. Another really simple one is, well, not simple one, a very common one would be Bollinger Bands here. And this is basically using kind of like a moving average here, and then it is showing the volatility, how it deviates from the price. I'm not going to get into the math on this, but basically the gist of this one is if it's pushing up against the top band here, that it's overbought, and as you see here, it dropped off. And then the other thing is if it's pushing against, I don't know if it shows an example here, maybe a little bit here. If it's pushing against the lower band here, that it's it's oversold and then it's going to go up, right? So this is kind of useful, but just like everything in this, it's easy to look at the chart and then look back, because keep in mind this adjusts every day. This band adjusts based upon the volatility and stuff. So it's easy to look back and go, oh, look what happened here. But as soon as it breaks out of this band, and I can't even show it to you, like for example, say in the future here, this thing breaks through this band we have right now, it would just redraw it, right? So it's easy to look back, and that's a mistake that a lot of people think with technicals, that it's so solid that it's going to tell you when to buy and when to sell, but it's easy looking back because the chart's already drawn, right? You don't know what's going to happen, especially when this changes. But it does have some validity. Like I'm looking right now with Lockheed here. It's pushing up, it might fall back a little bit, go down towards the middle of this channel around, 325 or something like that. But as a long-term investor, what am I looking at? I'm looking at the long term, right? So that's Bollinger Bands. Another one, and I actually look at this one I like quite a bit, is this is the RSI. And this is basically showing, again, the same thing, overbought and oversold conditions. And I have two different periods here. We won't get into that, but let's look at, oh, they're exactly the same here. I'm not too sure why it's showing here. Just focus on one of these, actually. So the general rule of thumb is it's showing buying volume. Really simply put, it's showing kind of buying volume. And the rule behind this is if it's over 70, so we're at 60 right now, that is generally overbought. Overbought meaning that it's expensive and it's going to fall. Now, if it's below 30, that means that it's oversold, meaning, it's cheap and you should buy. So right now I'm not seeing on this technical one or the other. It's getting close to being overbought, but I mean, we've seen a lot of buying pressure on a Lockheed here. It's just being going up and up. And I still think this is a great investment as well. This is another popular one, MACD. I won't go into that, but as you can see, these are the most common ones that are used, and a day trader is probably going to be using a lot of those. And I'm no expert on any of these technicals. Personally, myself, in my education, I'm not a firm believer in them. Like I said, I think a lot of them are hindsight, and I think that they are fulfilling kind of prophecies, if you know what I mean. What I mean by that is if enough people are using them, they might work. So for example, if this RSI was 70 and a lot of people are seeing that and then it tanks, they go, oh, look, it works. But that's because everybody's looking at it and then everybody's selling, right? Because it's really, in my opinion, silly to look at a chart and the chart is going to tell me what it's going to do. It's based on a company, especially when fundamentals are involved. And a technical analysis might go, well, say Lockheed tanks tomorrow for some reason, they lose government contracts, and every technical indicator was telling you to buy. They would go, well, that's just the way it is. It's like, yeah, well, that is the way it is, right, guys? But I mean, you have to be focused on fundamentals too. And in my undergraduate degree in finance, I spoke to a couple PhDs in finance. One in particular I remember. And he studied technical analysis pretty heavily, and he said that back in the 70s, maybe even to the late 80s, it was valid. I mean, there's been some studies that it was kind of useful, but as of now, it's really quite useless. And again, this is just coming from me. This is my opinion and what I learned in my education. And I know a lot of technical analysis would be angry and say, no, it works, blah, blah, blah. But my argument would be, well, how much of that is just luck, and how much is it self-fulfilling prophecy, right? So that's my opinion, guys. Like I said, I didn't want to go into detail. I'm no expert at this, but I wanted to show you at least the difference between fundamental and technical analysis. And do I look at technicals? Sometimes I look at them very briefly for an entry point, but generally speaking, I'm not looking at them too much. I'm looking at the fundamentals. How expensive is this for me to buy, and whether or not what it's going to do in the next week, 2 weeks, even a year, I really don't care, right? So anyway, that was the basics on technicals and what is technical analysis and technical trading. If you guys have any questions, leave them below. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell button so you know when I release videos. Anyway, have a great day, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.